And when there's a storm, these niticulous chicks have to fly, or they kind of have to be forced to learn to kind of get out of the storming area or get out of the area where the currents are very fast. So the way that the parents try to force the chicks to learn is that they stop feeding them, and this makes the chicks want to come out of the nest to get food. So by doing that, it is a very dangerous process. Like, many chicks have lost their lives doing that, but when they actually learn how to fly during times like that, they are well adapted after that. Hello everyone, good morning. I hope you're doing well today, and I hope your day is going great. If not, that is totally fine. Welcome to the Early Bird Weekly Podcast, where we talk about birds. I'm Ritiksha Satish Kumar, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the white-throated dipper. We will look into some interesting facts about the white-throated dipper and sometimes go off track with what's happening outside my window. I have been waking up quite early the past week, and I've noticed the sunrise a lot, and I just wanted to point that out and say how beautiful a sunrise actually is, and especially in the short, dark, wintry days, it does feel like a blessing. Okay, so now let's shift our focus to the star of today's episode, the white-throated dipper. So you might or might not have heard about this bird, but the reason why it's called the dipper is because it likes to dip in water to find its food. So the white-throated dipper usually lives near water, and it lives behind waterfalls, building its nests and raising its nestlings. So we'll learn more about their kind of habits later in the episode, but now let's move on to its family and scientific name. So the white-throated dipper is from the family Cichlidae and from the genus Cichlis. Its family consists of 6 species: the white-throated dipper, the American dipper, the brown dipper, white-capped dipper, the rufous-throated dipper, and the cypress dipper. So these 6 species, including the white-throated dipper, make up the family Cichlidae. And the genus Cichlis gives the last name for the white-throated dipper. So the full scientific name for the white-throated dipper is Cichlis cichlis. So if we look at the etymology of its name, the name Cichlis derives from the ancient Greek word kinklos, meaning small or small tail-wagging bird that resides near water. And we can see how that perfectly resembles the habits of our white-throated dipper. So moving on to some of the general facts of the white-throated dipper. So the white-throated dipper is also known as the European dipper because it's found mostly throughout Europe. Some of its species is found in India or Central Asia as well. It is an aquatic passerine bird, which means it actually lives in water. The white-throated dipper also has subspecies because of the differences in the color of its pectoral band. The pectoral band is kind of near the neck and near the belly area for the bird, and that color difference usually indicates what subspecies of white-throated dipper we are looking at. So another fact, the white-throated dipper is Norway's national bird. And there's a lot of, white-throated dippers found throughout Norway and Finland, especially in the Highlands, the Scottish Highlands. I also watched a documentary about the white-throated dippers surviving in the Scottish Highlands, and it was very, very interesting. So moving on to the appearance of the black-throated dipper. This bird is 7.1 inches or 18 centimeters long, which is pretty average, not too small, not too big. The head of the adult is brown. The back is slate gray, mottled with black, looking black from a distance, and the wings and tail are brown. The throat and upper breast are white, followed by a band of warm chestnut, which merges into black on the belly and flanks. So this pectoral band, or the band that is located below the upper breast, it can differ in color, and that usually indicates which subspecies of white-throated dipper that we're looking at, because the white-throated dipper does have subspecies. The bill is almost black, so the Cinclus cinclus, the CC cinclus, I don't know the full abbreviation of the CC cinclus, I think it's a subspecies of the Cinclus cinclus, has a black belly band, so this is where the differences come in. The young are grayish-brown and have no chestnut band. Now moving on to some of the habits of the white-throated dipper. The white-throated dipper is closely associated with swiftly turning rivers and streams, or the lakes into which these fall. It often perches, bobbing spasmodically with its short tail uplifted on the rocks around which the water swirls and tumbles. So another fact that I gathered from websites is that the Scottish dipper is natatorial. Sorry if I said the Scottish dipper, it's the white-throated dipper. I've been watching too many documentaries. Anyways, natatorial means that animals that are adapted for swimming, such as blue whale, killer whales, penguins, polar bears, etc. So they know how to swim in water even though they can't technically breathe underwater. So these also include birds such as ducks and penguins, and the white-throated dipper that know how to move underwater in a certain manner, which has been termed aquatic flying. So that is a very cool fact that I learned. And the habits that I just explained very briefly are in more detail with how these birds are natatorial, or how they're adapted. So it often perches, bobbing spasmodically with its short tail uplifted on the rocks around which the water swirls and tumbles, so it knows how to navigate the water. And even though the water is swiftly running, or sometimes it nests behind waterfalls, it knows how to navigate them and get behind the water without getting hit by the water. So I find that very, very cool. So now moving on to mating. The white-throated dippers breed when they are 8 years old. These birds are monogamous, which means that they only breed with one mate. And they are also territorial, which means they defend their territory. And one advantage which comes with living behind waterfalls, or living behind streams, rivers, or lakes, or behind a sheet of water, or even surrounding water, is that they have very good defense from predators, because usually predators such as foxes or any other mammals, big cats, whatever, they don't really know how to swim. Also, these birds, they know how to defend themselves. For example, the little nestlings, when they're born, they don't know how to fly, but if they are disturbed in any way, they hop into the water immediately, and that is their form of defense, so they know how to defend themselves. So moving on with more facts about breeding or mating, they build their nests near or above the water, and it's usually placed on a rocky ledge or a cavity, and they usually build it behind a sheet of water. That's what I've seen. The nest is a dome-shaped structure made of moss, grass stems, and leaves with a side entrance. The side entrance has an inner cup made of stem, rootlets, and hair. So both of the birds build the dome, but the female builds the inner cup. The eggs are laid daily, which is very surprising, and they're smooth and glossy, about 26 millimeters to 18.7 millimeters. So the eggs are incubated by the female after the penultimate egg is laid. So penultimate means, I think, the last egg. So the male brings food for the female, and both feed the ultrashell and niticulous chicks. So ultrashell, we know what that means. It can't see, or it's very dependent on the parents when it's born. This contrasts with precocial chicks, which have the ability to see, and they can usually fend for themselves from the minute they're born. Niticulous chicks are the chicks that remain in the nest after hatching until they're grown or are nearly grown. And as their nest is behind water, they need to be able to learn how to maneuver against it to come out of the nest safely. So these chicks fledge around 22 weeks but continue to be fed. Only if the female has started a second clutch will the male feed the fledglings, which is some form of, prioritization. We can see that 1 or 2 broods are reared in the same nest here. When disturbed, the young that have hardly feathered will at once drop into the water and dive. So we saw this before. That's their form of defense, diving into the water. So I do have a few facts from the documentary here. I really enjoyed watching it, and I just took some notes to share with you guys. So I will link the documentary that I watched in the description if you want to watch it. I referred to 2 documentaries that I watched about the white-throated dipper, so feel free to watch any of these. So from the documentary, I learned that these birds use the currents, the water currents, to protect themselves from predators, and they dive in to find food, and it was really magical to see how they did that very eloquently. And I could definitely see that they're well adapted to aquatic swimming. So another fact which I thought was very interesting is that the white eyelids of the white-throated dipper help them see clearly in the water. And the blood of the white-throated dipper stores large amounts of oxygen per minute, and that's why they're able to be in water for longer amounts of time. Another fact is that they get in and out of the nest by flying behind the wall of water. So that's also one of the things that I was worried about, but it looks like these birds are well adapted to get in and out of the nest. I also noticed how the young dippers or the young nestlings act. So they're definitely nidicolous, which means they stay in the nest until they're grown and feathered, but they're weak flyers when they first start flying. And when there's a storm, these nidicolous chicks have to fly, or they kind of have to be forced to learn to kind of get out of the storming area or get out of the area where the currents are very fast. So the way that the parents try to force the chicks to learn is that they stop feeding them, and this makes the chicks want to come out of the nest to get food. So by doing that, it is a very dangerous process. Many chicks have lost their lives doing that, but when they actually learn how to fly during times like that, they are well adapted after that. So that brings us to the end of this early bird episode, and I hope you enjoyed learning about the white-throated dipper. Tune into my episode next week when we will be chatting about another cool bird. And don't forget to follow this podcast on social media, and if you would like to message me on Instagram, the username is early_bird_weekly_podcast, or if you'd like to send me an email, you can send it to earlybirdweeklypodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to ask any questions or give feedback. I'm open to any suggestions for future episodes as well. And if you like this episode, you can share this to your family and friends, and that is always a really helpful thing to do. Or feel free to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. If you don't want to do any of those, please just keep listening. I'm very thankful to have such a good audience. Thanks again for listening. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.